Hey there, welcome to Real Horror Files. I'm here to help you relax tonight, so before you get too cozy, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It really makes us feel like the global community it is. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's begin our evening together. The night was a canvas painted in shades of indigo and black, the streetlights casting pale halos on the slick pavement. A distant siren wailed, echoing through the stillness as Vincent maneuvered his car down the empty streets. The air felt thick with anticipation, a tension that buzzed beneath the surface. He glanced at the clock on the dashboard. The late hour drew in the oddest of requests. A ping broke the silence, a ride request from a location that seemed almost forgotten. As he pulled up to the curb, a figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in darkness. The passenger slid into the back seat, the weight of their presence palpable. Vincent caught a glimpse of their eyes, dark, deep, as if they held secrets of their own. "Where to?" he asked, his voice steady, though unease crept into his chest. "Just drive," the passenger replied, their tone low and deliberate. The command was simple, but it hung in the air like a challenge. Vincent nodded, shifting the car into gear. He couldn't shake the feeling that this ride was more than just a journey. The engine hummed softly, a comforting backdrop to the silence that enveloped them. Vincent's mind wandered to the faces he'd encountered in the rearview mirror, ordinary people with their own stories, their own burdens, but this passenger felt different. He stole glances in the mirror, noting their stillness, the way they seemed to absorb the darkness outside rather than repel it. "Do you ever wonder what lies behind closed eyes?" they asked suddenly, breaking the tension like glass shattering. Vincent's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "What do you mean?" "Everyone has a past they hide, Vincent. We wear our lives like masks, but sometimes they slip. And what's lurking behind those masks? What sleeps behind your eyes?" The passenger leaned forward, their gaze piercing. Vincent felt a chill creep up his spine. The weight of their words settled in the car, thick and suffocating. The memories he buried deep began to surface, uninvited. He had spent years running from them, his choices, the echoes of his past mistakes. "I don't have anything to hide," he said, though the tremor in his voice betrayed him. "Is that so?" The passenger's lips curled into a knowing smile. "Or perhaps you've just learned to forget. That's the trick, isn't it? To forget what haunts us." Silence fell between them as the city lights blurred past. Vincent's mind raced, grappling with the shadows of his past. He could hear whispers of guilt, the faces of those he'd wronged, flickering like specters in the dark. "I've done things I'm not proud of," he admitted, the words spilling out before he could stop them. "But I'm trying to move on." "Move on?" They chuckled softly, the sound twisted with a hint of disdain. "You think running makes it go away? Those who sleep behind your eyes, they never truly leave." Vincent's heart pounded against his ribcage. The truth of their words hit him like a punch to the gut. The past never faded. It lingered, waiting for the right moment to resurface. He focused on the road, but the weight of their gaze felt like a shackle. "Are you afraid?" the passenger asked, their tone suddenly gentle, almost compassionate. "Of what they'll say? Of what you'll see when you finally confront them?" "I'm afraid of what I might become," Vincent confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "What if I can't change?" The passenger remained silent, allowing his thoughts to spiral. Perhaps it was time to face the ghosts he had long buried. Perhaps it was time to end the charade. As they drove deeper into the night, Vincent felt the shadows shift around him, and for the first time, he didn't want to look away. The passenger's presence was a mirror, reflecting the parts of himself he had tried so hard to forget. "Turn left," the passenger instructed, their voice a calm anchor in the storm of his thoughts. Vincent complied, knowing this ride was leading him somewhere he had avoided for far too long. The streetlights flickered overhead, casting long, wavering shadows that danced across the pavement. Each turn felt like a descent into the depths of his own psyche. Vincent's grip tightened on the steering wheel, knuckles whitening as the passenger's words echoed in his mind. "They never truly leave." "Where are we going?" Vincent asked, the question hanging heavy in the air, laced with an underlying sense of dread. "To a place where you can finally see them," the passenger replied, their voice steady, almost melodic. "You'll know them when you get there." The city around them grew quieter, the familiar hum of urban life fading as they ventured into a more desolate area. Abandoned buildings loomed like graves, remnants of lives once lived. Vincent felt the weight of nostalgia clawing at him, pulling him back to memories he'd rather forget. Each crumbling facade seemed to whisper secrets he wasn't ready to hear. "Does it ever get easier?" he asked, glancing sideways at the passenger whose face remained shrouded in shadows. "It only gets easier if you let it," they replied, the words carrying a gravity that pressed against Vincent's chest. "You have to confront what's buried deep within you. Only then can you truly move forward. His heart raced. I don't even know if I want to. The admission tasted bitter on his tongue, a confession he hadn't planned to make. Ah, but that's the crux of it, isn't it? You can't run from the truth forever. They'll always find you in the dark. The passenger leaned closer, their voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. You can't escape the shadows behind your eyes. Vincent swallowed hard, the lump in his throat nearly choking him. The memories surged like a tide, threatening to pull him under. He thought of the faces, their laughter, their tears, their unfulfilled dreams. The weight of responsibility bore down on him, and he felt the familiar rush of guilt. Stop, he commanded suddenly, his voice cutting through the oppressive silence. I can't do this. He pulled the car to the side of the road, the tires screeching against the asphalt. The passenger remained calm, their gaze unwavering. You can, and you will. They're waiting for you, Vincent. You owe it to them to listen. Vincent's breath quickened as he gripped the wheel, his mind racing. He could feel the ghosts stirring, their presence prickling at the back of his consciousness. What if I can't face them? What if I'm not ready? Then you'll remain trapped in your own prison, the passenger replied softly, an unsettling calm radiating from them. You'll continue to run, but they'll always be there, haunting your dreams, lurking in your thoughts. You must decide, Vincent. Do you wish to break free? The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Vincent's resolve wavered, and for a fleeting moment, he considered fleeing once more, leaving this conversation and this passenger behind. But deep down, he knew he had reached a crossroads. Show me, he whispered, the words escaping before he could rethink them. Show me where they are. The passenger smiled, a slow, knowing smile that sent a shiver down Vincent's spine. Good. Now turn the car around. We're going back. Vincent hesitated but complied, the engine revving to life as he shifted gears. The world outside the windshield blurred, the lights of the city fading into a distant memory. He felt the weight of the past pressing against him, a palpable force that threatened to overwhelm. As they retraced their route, the passenger's silence was taut with anticipation. Vincent focused on the road, each familiar turn a reminder of the choices he had made. The further they drove, the closer he felt to unearthing the truths he had buried. Stop here, the passenger instructed again, their voice firm yet gentle. Vincent brought the car to a halt in front of a weathered old building, its windows dark and its structure sagging, as if it too bore the weight of forgotten memories. Welcome home, the passenger said, their tone laced with an eerie sense of finality. Vincent turned toward them, heart racing, breath shallow. This is where it all began, isn't it? Indeed, the passenger replied, their eyes glinting in the dim light. Are you ready to face what sleeps behind your eyes? Vincent took a deep breath, steeling himself for the confrontation. The ride had led him here, and now, at the precipice of reckoning, he had no choice but to step into the darkness. Vincent stepped out of the car, the chill of the night air wrapping around him like a shroud. The old building loomed ahead, a silent sentinel guarding secrets that felt alive, whispering through the cracks in the weathered facade. He could almost hear the echoes of laughter, the soft cries of despair that had marked his past. Each step toward the entrance was a battle against the memories clawing to the surface, threatening to drown him in a tide of guilt. The passenger lingered behind him, a shadow cast long by the dim streetlight. You know what you need to do, they said, their voice a soft murmur, yet it sliced through the stillness like a blade. Vincent clenched his fists, the urge to flee surging within him, but he knew, deep down, that there was no escape from this reckoning. He reached for the door, its surface rough against his palm, and pushed it open. The creak of the hinges sounded like a lament, and he stepped inside, the air thick with dust and the scent of decay. Shadows danced across the walls, shaped by a flickering bulb overhead. The interior was a time capsule, a reflection of mundane lives lived and lost within these walls. This place, he murmured, the weight of nostalgia pulling him deeper into the past. Remember, the passenger said, stepping through the threshold, their eyes scanning the room as if searching for ghosts. Each corner holds a fragment of your truth. The past never truly forgets you. Vincent swallowed hard, his heart pounding like a war drum. He moved cautiously through the dimly lit space, each step releasing a flood of memories. The living room, once vibrant with laughter, now lay in shambles, the furniture draped in sheets like corpses awaiting burial. He could almost see the faces, the friends who had gathered here, the ones he had betrayed. Over there, the passenger pointed, their finger steady as it traced the outline of a door at the far end of the room. Do you remember what lies behind it? Vincent hesitated, a cold sweat forming at his brow. I don't want to, he breathed, the truth a razor's edge in his throat. "You must," came the gentle insistence, a tether pulling him closer to the door. "The only way to rid yourself of their shadows is to face them." He stepped toward the door, each footfall echoing like a pulse in his ears. His hand reached for the knob, fingers trembling. With trepidation, the air grew heavier, as if the house itself were holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable. With a determined twist, he pushed the door open, revealing a staircase winding down into darkness. "Go on," the passenger urged, their presence a steady anchor amidst the gathering storm of Vincent's emotions. "This is where it all converges." Vincent took a deep breath, summoning his courage as he descended the stairs, each step resonating with the weight of his choices. The air grew colder, the darkness thickening around him like a shroud. He felt the presence of the past closing in, the faces of those he had wronged flickering in and out of his mind like distant stars. At the bottom of the stairs, he found a small room, its walls lined with photographs, captured moments of joy, sorrow, and betrayal. Vincent staggered back, the images flooding his senses. Nights spent, laughing, promises made, and the moment it all had unraveled. "No," he whispered, horror dawning as realization settled in. "I thought I could forget." "You can't outrun what's inside you," the passenger said softly, stepping into the room beside him. "They sleep behind your eyes, waiting for acknowledgement. Only then can you find peace." Vincent's gaze fell upon a particular photograph, his own face, younger, filled with hope. Beside him stood a group of friends, their smiles radiant, untainted by the darkness that would soon follow. "What have I done?" he breathed, the weight of regret crashing over him like a tidal wave. "Face it," the passenger urged, their voice echoing within the confines of the room. "Only by confronting your past can you begin to cleanse the wounds festering within." He closed his eyes, the shadows swirling around him, whispering haunting truths. The choice lay before him, to run once again or stand firm and confront the ghosts that lingered behind his eyes. With a deep, shuddering breath, he felt the resolve solidify within him. He would not let the past define him any longer. "Show me," he whispered, his voice barely audible, yet filled with a newfound strength. "Show me how to make it right." The passenger's smile returned, a quiet triumph glimmering in their eyes. "Then let us begin." The walls of the small room seemed to close in on Vincent, the air thick with the weight of his unresolved past. The passenger stepped closer, their presence a steadying force against the tempest of memories swirling in Vincent's mind. "To understand what lies behind those eyes, you must first embrace the truth of your deeds," they urged, their voice a calm anchor in the storm of Vincent's turmoil. He opened his eyes, each photograph a portal to a moment he wished to forget. "But it hurts," he admitted, his voice trembling as he gestured toward the images. "To relive it all." The passenger nodded, their expression a blend of empathy and determination. "Acknowledgement may hurt, Vincent, but pain is a part of healing. You cannot weave a new tapestry without first unraveling the old." Vincent's gaze fell upon a photograph that struck a deeper chord, a night under the stars, laughter mingling with the cool night air. In the picture, he was alive, free from the shackles of guilt that now bound him. He could almost hear the echoes of laughter, the warmth of camaraderie. "That was before," he said, his voice trailing off, lost in the reverie of better days. "Before the choices that led you here," the passenger interjected gently. "But those choices do not define you, Vincent. They are threads in your story, not the whole cloth. To move forward, you must begin by revisiting the pivotal moments, the decisions that set you on this path." Vincent closed his eyes again, allowing the memories to wash over him. The warmth of friendship gave way to the chill of betrayal as he recalled the day everything changed. The argument, the accusations, and the moment he had walked away, convinced that severing ties would free him from the pain. It had not. Instead, it had chained him to a life of regret and self-imposed isolation. "Look deeper," the passenger urged, their voice weaving through the haze of his memories. "What did you leave behind? Who did you hurt?" The question pierced through him like a shard of glass, forcing him to confront the faces he had turned away from. Veronica's eyes, once filled with trust, now haunted him, a mirror reflecting the consequences of his choices. "I abandoned her," he gasped, the realization hitting him like a blow. "I thought I was protecting myself, but I only caused more damage." "Precisely," the passenger affirmed, their gaze unwavering. "Now imagine her perspective. What emotions do you think she carries? What scars has your choice inflicted upon her?" Vincent's heart raced as he envisioned Veronica's pain, the nights she must have spent wondering what had gone wrong, the moments of doubt that had crept into her mind. "I was selfish," he murmured, tears pooling in his eyes. I never considered the fallout. Now is the time to consider it, the passenger said, their voice an insistent whisper. To confront the real consequences of your actions. Only then can you seek the path toward redemption. Vincent inhaled deeply, the air thick with the echoes of his past. What if she can't forgive me? He asked, a tremor of fear lacing his words. Forgiveness is a journey, not a destination, the passenger replied, their tone soothing yet firm. Your task is to show her that you acknowledge the hurt you caused, to demonstrate that you are willing to change. It begins with this acknowledgement. With a surge of courage, Vincent nodded, the resolve within him solidifying like a stone. I need to reach out to her, he declared, the words a lifeline tossed into the turbulent sea of his emotions. I need to face her, to apologize and explain. The passenger smiled, a glimmer of pride in their eyes. Then let us take the first step together. It won't be easy, but it is the beginning of your journey toward healing. Vincent took a deep breath, the air feeling lighter, infused with a sense of purpose. As he stepped away from the photographs that had trapped him in despair, he felt the walls of the room shift, the shadows receding as if acknowledging his decision. Show me the way, he implored, ready to embrace the path ahead, no longer willing to let the past sleep behind his eyes. And with that, the passenger extended their hand, inviting him into the unknown, a new chapter waiting to be written. Vincent reached for the passenger's hand, feeling an electric jolt of connection as their fingers intertwined. The moment felt surreal, as if the universe had conspired to align their paths. He felt the weight of his past lift slightly, replaced by a burgeoning hope. Where do we start? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper, laden with anticipation. First, we must confront the memories, the passenger instructed, their gaze steady. They linger just beyond the veil of your consciousness, waiting for you to acknowledge them. You cannot outrun what sleeps behind your eyes. As if on cue, the scenery outside began to shift, the streetlights blurring into streaks of gold and silver. The world around them morphed, transporting them to a fog-laden street where shadows danced between the flickering lights. Vincent recognized the place, the old neighborhood, where he had once walked hand in hand with Veronica, laughter spilling, like sunlight on their youthful faces. Why here? Vincent questioned, his heart racing as nostalgia clawed at him. Because this is where it all began, the passenger replied, their tone unwavering. This is the crucible of your pain, where choices were made and paths diverged. Vincent's throat tightened. He hadn't returned here since that fateful night, each step haunted by the echoes of their shared dreams. I can't go back, he stammered, the memories rising like a tide threatening to drown him. But the passenger squeezed his hand, their grip a steady anchor against the storm of his emotions. You are not alone. I am here to guide you through. With a deep breath, Vincent took a tentative step forward, the ground beneath his feet familiar yet foreign. Each step echoed with the ghosts of his past, the laughter, the arguments, the heart-wrenching silence that followed his departure. He felt as if he were walking through a gallery of regret, each frame a reminder of his failures. Remember her smile? The passenger prompted, their voice a gentle nudge. What did it mean to you? Vincent closed his eyes, allowing the warmth of her smile to envelop him. It was everything, he whispered, the admission tasting bittersweet on his tongue. She lit up my world. I took that for granted. Exactly, the passenger affirmed, their presence a steady beacon in the haze. Now, think of the moment you decided to leave. What drove you away? Vincent's heart sank as the memories rushed back. Fear, anger, a desperate need for escape. It felt like I was suffocating, he admitted, shame washing over him. But I see now, I was just running from myself. Then face it, the passenger urged, their eyes piercing through the fog of his denial. Face the truth that you've hidden from for too long. As they walked deeper into the heart of his memories, Vincent felt the weight of his guilt pressing down on him. Each step brought him closer to the moment he had dreaded the most, the confrontation with Veronica that would either be his salvation or his ruin. Suddenly they stood before her front door, the wood worn and faded like the remnants of their once vibrant love. Vincent's heart raced, a drumbeat of anxiety and resolve. What if she doesn't want to see me? He asked, his voice trembling as he wrestled with doubt. Then you must be prepared to accept that too, the passenger replied, their tone unwavering. But you owe her the truth, Vincent. You owe yourself that much. Taking a deep breath, Vincent raised his hand, hesitating before knocking. The sound reverberated in the stillness, a prelude to the symphony of emotions that lay ahead. As he waited, the realization dawned on him. This was not just about seeking forgiveness. It was about reclaiming his identity, about acknowledging the scars that had shaped him. The door creaked open, revealing Veronica, her expression a mixture of surprise and guardedness. Time seemed to freeze as their eyes locked, the past flooding back in an instant. In that moment, Vincent understood. The journey was only beginning, but he was finally ready to face it. "Vincent?" she breathed, uncertainty lacing her tone. He swallowed hard, the anxiety coiling in his stomach. "Veronica, the passenger's presence lingered beside him, a silent strength urging him forward. "Speak your truth," they whispered, and with that, Vincent stepped into the light, ready to unravel the tangled threads of their shared history. Script continuation. Vincent hesitated, words choking in his throat like a forgotten melody. The air between them crackled with unspoken memories, each lingering moment a testament to the life they once shared. I've been lost," he finally managed, his voice a fragile whisper, "lost in my own darkness." Veronica's brow furrowed, her guarded expression giving way to a flicker of concern. "What do you mean?" The question hung heavy, an anchor pulling Vincent deeper into the depths of his guilt. "I made choices," he admitted, his voice barely above a murmur. "Choices that hurt you, that hurt so many." The weight of his confession felt like a leaden shroud, wrapped tightly around his chest. "I thought I could escape it. I thought I could leave it behind." He took a step closer, the distance between them shrinking, yet a chasm of hurt still loomed large. "Vincent," she said slowly, each syllable dripping with caution, "you disappeared. You left me. Without a word. I had to rebuild my life. Piece by piece." Her eyes glistened, betraying the hurt beneath her stoicism. What could you possibly say that would change any of that? The passenger's presence loomed large, a silent witness to the unfolding drama. "This is your moment, Vincent," they urged, their voice a distant echo in his mind. "Don't shy away from the truth." He inhaled sharply, gathering fragments of courage from the corners of his fragmented soul. "I never meant to hurt you," he confessed, the words tumbling forth in a rush. "I thought I was doing the right thing, protecting you from the things that haunted me, the darkness that I couldn't escape." "Protecting me?" Veronica's voice rose, edged with incredulity. "By disappearing? By leaving me in oblivion?" The hurt in her tone pierced through him like a cold dagger, and yet he felt the truth of her words. "You think those shadows were yours to carry alone?" Vincent clenched his jaw, a surge of anger mixing with remorse. "I didn't want you to see me like that, Veronica. I didn't want to drag you into my hell. Yet here we are," she replied, her voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of pain. "You've dragged me right back into it." The silence stretched, a taut string ready to snap. Each second felt like a lifetime as he registered the flicker of emotions playing across her face. Resentment, sadness, but beneath it all, a flicker of hope. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," he said, grounding himself in the moment. "I'm here to own my past, to face the man I became. I need you to know I'm trying to change." Veronica's gaze softened, a crack forming in her emotional armor. "Change," she echoed, the word lingering between them. "Do you even know what that means?" Vincent nodded, desperation igniting within him. "I've been seeking redemption, Veronica. Not just for you, but for myself. I can't keep running." The passenger stepped forward, their presence almost tangible now, as if they too were a part of this reckoning. "You must show her the truth of your journey," they urged, eyes locked on Vincent, reflecting both resilience and vulnerability. "Can you give me a chance to show you?" he asked, his heart pounding beneath the weight of his own doubt. "Can we start from here? From this moment? I want to rebuild what's been lost." Veronica's expression shifted, uncertainty battling with the flicker of hope. "You have no idea how hard it was to let you go," she admitted, her voice trembling. "But do you really think you can change?" Vincent stepped into the light, the shadows of his past still whispering at the edges of his consciousness. "I have to believe I can," he said, and in that instant, he understood the gravity of what lay ahead. This was not just a confrontation, it was the beginning of a new journey. "Then show me," she whispered, a challenge and an invitation wrapped into one. The door swung wider, allowing him to glimpse the life they had once envisioned together, a flickering candle in the darkness. As he crossed the threshold, the passenger remained at his side, a steadfast reminder of the road he had traveled and the path still ahead. Together, they stepped into the warmth, ready to confront the ghosts that lingered behind their eyes, prepared to untangle the threads of their shared history. The journey to redemption, fraught with uncertainty, had only just begun. The moment Vincent entered the room, the familiar scents enveloped him: vanilla candles, faded fabric softener, and the distant echo of laughter from old memories. Each step felt like a negotiation with the past, forcing him to confront not just the walls around him but the walls within. Veronica stood at the threshold, her silhouette framed by the soft glow of the kitchen light, casting long shadows that danced along the floor. "Do you remember this place?" she asked, her voice soft yet edged with an undercurrent of tension. "Every corner," he replied, his gaze drifting to the wall where they had once pinned photographs of dreams yet to be realized, a kaleidoscope of smiles and moments that now felt like relics from another life. I remember the way you would laugh when I'd try to cook. You always said I could burn water. A small smile flickered on her lips, but it quickly vanished, replaced by something heavier. And yet here we are, both scarred by what we couldn't save. The passenger lingered at the doorway, a silent observer in this intimate exchange, their presence a reminder of the choice Vincent had made to confront his demons. They seemed to pulse with a quiet energy, as if urging him to reach deeper into the well of his emotions. Veronica, I haven't just come to reminisce, he said, his heart drumming against his ribs. I've come to show you that I can be more than the man who let you down. She stepped closer, and in that movement, the air thickened with unsaid words. You think it's that simple? You think you can just step back into my life and everything will magically fix itself? No, he replied, his voice steady. But I can try. I can fight for it for us. I've spent too long running from my mistakes, hiding behind every excuse I could find. But now, I want to own them. I want to face the truth. The passenger shifted slightly, almost as if they were breathing alongside Vincent, reinforcing his resolve. Vincent's eyes bore into hers, searching for a glimmer of understanding. I've been haunted by my choices, Veronica. I've learned that pain doesn't just fade away. It lingers, sleeps behind your eyes, waiting for the moment you least expect it. And I've brought that pain to you. And I'm sorry. Tears glistened in her eyes, reflecting the vulnerability that had been buried beneath years of hurt. You speak of change like it's a light switch, but what if it's not enough? What if you try, but it's still not what I need? Then I'll keep trying, he vowed, the weight of his commitment pressing against the backdrop of their shared history. But I can't do it alone. I need you to help guide me, to hold me accountable. A flicker of hope ignited in her gaze, battling against the shadows of doubt. And what if I choose to close the door again? Then I'll respect your choice, he said, a tremor in his voice. But I'll never stop fighting for you, for us. I'll keep coming back, no matter how many times it takes. As silence enveloped them, the passenger finally stepped forward, bridging the gap between their hearts. It's a journey of trust, they said, their voice low yet resolute. And trust is built in the spaces between words. Show her who you are. Vincent felt an electric pulse of determination surge through him. With a deep breath, he took a step closer to Veronica, reaching out to grasp her hand. Let's begin anew, he whispered, one moment at a time. The warmth of her skin against his ignited a flicker of something they both feared to name. Together, they stood at the precipice of possibility, ready to navigate the labyrinth of their intertwined lives. The shadows behind their eyes began to stir, but in that moment, they chose to face them, hand in hand, ready to rewrite the story that had once been theirs. The journey to redemption would demand everything they had, but as they stood there, a fragile hope began to emerge from the darkness, illuminating the path ahead. Vincent's grip tightened around Veronica's hand, an anchor amidst the tumult of their shared past. The moment felt suspended in time, the world around them fading into a blur of uncertainty and potential. Yet, he could feel the weight of the shadows pressing in closer, their presence a haunting reminder of the choices that had led them to this crossroads. Do you remember that summer by the lake? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper, as though the very act of speaking could summon the ghosts of their past. When we thought we could escape everything, Veronica's eyes flickered with recognition, a mix of nostalgia and pain. I remember, she replied, her voice steady but laced with the fragility of the moment. We were so naive, believing we could leave our troubles behind. Naive, yes, he echoed, a bitter smile playing at the corners of his lips. But there was something beautiful about our dreams back then, wasn't there? We were free, at least for a little while, until reality came crashing down, she said, pulling her hand away slightly, a physical manifestation of the emotional barriers they both had erected over the years. You know it's not that simple, Vincent. We can't just pretend the past doesn't exist. He nodded, a deep ache forming in his chest as he fought the urge to retreat into the safety of silence. No, we can't. But what if we face it together? What if we confront those shadows, instead of letting them dictate our lives? The passenger, a silent observer of their unfolding drama, stepped back, allowing the weight of Vincent's words to hang heavily in the air. The tension was palpable, a taut string ready to snap. The silence that followed was thick, filled with unspoken fears and long-buried truths clamoring for release. Vincent, Veronica finally said, her voice trembling with vulnerability. What if the shadows are too strong? What if they consume us? A chill swept through him, the specter of his past looming larger than ever. He had seen the depths of despair, the darkness that could swallow a person whole, and it terrified him. Then we fight, he declared, his resolve hardening. We fight with everything we have. I won't let them take you from me again." Her eyes searched his, seeking reassurance amidst the storm of emotions. "You promise?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as if uttering the words too loudly might shatter the fragile hope they were attempting to construct. "I promise," he affirmed, his heart pounding in his chest. "I'll be your shield against the darkness. Together, we can create a light strong enough to push it back." Veronica took a deep breath, the weight of his promise settling like a warm blanket over her fears. "Then let's find that light," she said, determination igniting in her eyes. "But we need to start by acknowledging the shadows. We can't ignore them any longer." Vincent felt the electric charge of her words, the call to action resonating within him. "I'm ready," he replied, each syllable a vow. "Let's face them together. No more running." As they stood there, the shadows behind their eyes began to shift. Restless, but wary, they were not yet ready to relinquish their hold, but Vincent felt a flicker of something within him, a spark of courage that had long been dormant. "Let's begin with the hardest part," he suggested, his voice steady. "Let's talk about that night, the night everything changed." Veronica's expression turned somber, the air thickening with memories that threatened to drown them both. "You mean the accident?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Yes," he confirmed, feeling the weight of confession settle upon his shoulders. "It's time we faced it. I need you to know the truth about what happened, about how it shattered everything." The passenger, now more than an observer, stepped forward once again, their presence a reminder of the journey they were undertaking. "You don't have to do this alone," they said softly, their voice imbued with understanding. "We're all here, ready to listen." Vincent nodded, the fear of vulnerability rising within him, but he pressed on. "It's not just about the accident, Veronica. It's about the choices I made afterward, the regrets that haunt me, the guilt that's become part of me." As he spoke, the shadows behind their eyes stirred restlessly, sensing the awakening of long-buried truths. But there, in the shared space between them, a flicker of hope ignited, a promise that perhaps they could finally begin to unravel the tangled web of their past together. In that moment, amidst the echoes of pain and the possibility of healing, they took the first step toward confronting the darkness that had loomed over them for too long. Together, they would navigate the labyrinth of their intertwined lives, ready to confront the shadows that slept behind their eyes. Vincent's grip tightened on the steering wheel as the highway stretched out before them, an endless ribbon of asphalt reflecting the dim glow of the headlights. The hum of the engine was a constant, a backdrop to the silence that hung heavy in the air. "We can't change what happened," he continued, his voice steadier now, "but we can choose how we live with it." Veronica shifted in her seat, her gaze fixed out the window as the darkness blurred past. "Living with it," she echoed softly, a hint of bitterness lacing her words. "Is that what you call it? Because it feels more like existing." The rawness of her honesty cut through the air, leaving Vincent momentarily speechless. "Existing is a start," he replied, the vulnerability in his voice revealing the cracks in his facade. "But it's not enough. We have to confront it, face the ghosts that haunt us." The passenger shifted, their presence a grounding force amidst the turmoil. "Ghosts have a way of lingering, Vincent. They thrive in the shadows of our minds, feeding on our regrets and fears." Their eyes glimmered in the dark, reflecting an understanding that cut deeper than the surface. Vincent could feel the tension coiling within him, threatening to unravel. "I thought I could outrun it," he admitted, the confession spilling forth with unexpected urgency. "But the truth is, every mile I drove, every passenger I picked up, it just drew me closer to the inevitable." Veronica turned to him, her expression a mixture of sympathy and disbelief. "You think running away makes it easier? It only complicates things more." She hesitated, as if weighing her next words carefully. "What was it you did, Vincent? What happened that night?" The question hung in the air, a knife poised at the edge of revelation. Vincent closed his eyes for a fleeting moment, summoning the courage to plunge into the depths of his memories. "I was reckless," he finally said, his voice a whisper. "We were all reckless, Veronica. I thought we were invincible. But that night changed everything." A tremor shook his hands, and the passenger leaned closer, their breath a whisper of encouragement. "You're not alone in this," they reminded him, their tone a soft caress against his frayed emotions. "Let it out." Vincent opened his eyes, his vision blurring with unshed tears. It was supposed to be a night of celebration. We were young, foolish, believing we could conquer the world, but we didn't see the danger until it was too late. He inhaled sharply, the memories flooding back in vivid detail. The crash, the screams, the silence that followed. It was like everything just stopped. Veronica's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, and Vincent felt the weight of her empathy wrap around him like a lifeline. And what about the aftermath? She pressed gently. What did you do? He swallowed hard, the lump in his throat a reminder of the choices that had chained him to his past. I ran, he admitted. His voice breaking. I ran from the wreckage, from the chaos I had caused. I thought I could escape the truth, but it followed me, everywhere. The passenger nodded, their expression one of solemn understanding. It's time to stop running, Vincent. It's time to face the truth, no matter how painful it may be. In that moment, as the car glided through the night, Vincent felt the stirrings of resolve rise within him. He glanced at Veronica, her face illuminated by the glow of the dashboard, and saw not only the pain of their shared history, but also the flicker of hope that shone in her eyes. I'm ready, he said, the weight of his words echoing in the confines of the vehicle. Ready to confront the ghosts that sleep behind our eyes. A silence settled over them, heavy yet charged with potential. They were no longer just passengers on a journey. They were companions on a quest for redemption. Each step forward a testament to their courage to face the past and reclaim their futures. As they ventured further into the night, the shadows that had once threatened to consume them began to recede, giving way to the promise of dawn. Together, they would illuminate the darkness and finally break free from the chains of regret that bound them. The road stretched ahead, a winding ribbon of asphalt illuminated by the flickering streetlights that dotted the landscape. Each pulse of light revealed fleeting glimpses of their reflections in the darkened windows, two souls intertwined by fate, haunted by choices that echoed louder than the engine's hum. Vincent's grip tightened on the steering wheel, knuckles whitening as he navigated the familiar streets. You said it's time to face the truth, he murmured, the weight of the words lingering in the air. But what if the truth is too much to bear? His voice trembled, a fragile thread of vulnerability woven into the fabric of his resolve. Veronica turned to him, her gaze steady and unwavering. We've already borne so much, haven't we? The weight of our secrets, the burden of guilt, what's left to fear? Her words hung. Between them, a challenge wrapped in empathy. The intensity of her conviction ignited something within him, a flicker of courage that threatened to grow. I guess I fear losing what little I have left, Vincent replied, his voice low but firm. I've spent years building walls to protect myself. What if tearing them down means losing everything? And what if it means gaining freedom? She countered, her tone soft, yet insistent. The past is a prison, Vincent. You may think you've escaped, but it's always there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the moment you let your guard down. He exhaled, the breath escaping him like a ghost. You make it sound so simple. It is simple, she said, her voice a balm against his turmoil. But that doesn't mean it's easy. It's a journey, one that requires facing the darkest parts of ourselves. Vincent nodded slowly, feeling the weight of her words settle in his chest. He flicked the turn signal, guiding the car toward a dimly lit alley that led to a small park, an unassuming place where they could confront the shadows without the prying eyes of the world. As they parked, the muffled sounds of the city faded, leaving only the soft rustle of leaves and the distant hum of life continuing on without them. Stepping out of the car, Vincent felt the cool night air wrap around him, a stark contrast to the warmth of the vehicle. He turned to Veronica, who had followed him with a determined step. Are you sure you want to do this? He asked, uncertainty creeping into his voice. What if it opens wounds we can't heal? She offered a small, reassuring smile. Then we'll tend to them together. But we can't let fear dictate our lives any longer. With a shared understanding, they moved deeper into the park, the soft glow of moonlight illuminating their path. The trees stood sentinel, their branches whispering secrets of their own, echoes of pain, loss, and the resilience that comes from facing adversity. Do you remember that night? Vincent asked, his voice barely above a whisper as they approached a clearing. The one that changed everything? Veronica's expression shifted, her eyes shimmering with unspoken memories. How could I forget? It was the night everything unraveled, the night we lost ourselves. As they reached the center of the clearing, Vincent felt a surge of emotion rise within him, a turbulent mix of regret and longing. I thought I could bury it, but it always finds a way back, like a wound that never heals. Then let's dig it up, she said, her voice steady and resolute. Let's face it together, and maybe then we can finally lay it to rest. The silence that followed was thick with anticipation, a moment suspended in time as they stood on the precipice of their shared history. The shadows danced around them, but in that moment, Vincent felt a flicker of light, an ember of hope igniting in the darkness. All right, he said, his voice filled with newfound determination. Let's do this. Their hands found each other, fingers intertwining, a silent pact forged in the depths of their shared pain. Together, they would confront the ghosts that lingered, unearthing the truths that lay dormant behind their eyes. As they stood in the stillness, the air crackling with tension, they knew that the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but they would navigate it side by side. Two souls daring to reclaim their futures, one step at a time. The forest loomed around them, a silent audience as Vincent and Veronica stood at the edge of the clearing. The night air was thick, with the scent of damp earth and pine, a reminder of the last time they had ventured into these woods. Vincent's heart beat in time with the rustling leaves, each sound echoing the unresolved tension that hung between them. "Do you remember the stories we used to tell?" Veronica asked, breaking the silence. Her voice was a soft melody against the cacophony of the night, but there was an edge to it, a sharpness that hinted at the weight of their shared history. "The ones about the things that lurked in the shadows?" Vincent nodded, a bitter smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Monsters in the dark, waiting to consume us." He swallowed hard, feeling the familiar chill creep up his spine. But the real monsters, they weren't in the woods, they were within us. Veronica's gaze pierced through the darkness, searching for answers that had eluded them for too long. "We can't keep running from them, Vincent. Not anymore." Her words hung in the air, and for a moment, the forest held its breath, waiting for a response. "Then let's not run," he replied, his voice steady, though uncertainty rippled beneath. "Let's confront what we've been avoiding, together." The promise hung between them, fragile yet unbreakable, as they took a tentative step forward into the unknown. As they ventured deeper into the woods, the path twisted and turned like the tangled threads of their past. The moonlight filtered through the trees, casting ghostly shadows that danced around them, reminiscent of the memories they had tried to bury. Each step felt heavier, laden with the weight of their shared sorrow. "Do you remember what you said that night?" Veronica's voice broke through the silence, drawing Vincent's mind back to the evening that had changed everything. "You told me we could escape, that we could leave it all behind." Vincent's breath caught in his throat. "I was naive," he admitted, a hollow laugh escaping his lips. "I thought running away would erase our mistakes. I didn't understand then that they would follow us, like a shadow that never fades." Veronica paused, her eyes reflecting the flickering light of the stars above. "But we can't change the past. We can only face it. We owe ourselves that much." Her words resonated deeply within him, igniting the spark of courage that had lain dormant for far too long. "You're right," he said, his voice firmer. "Now, it's time to unearth the truth. No more hiding." As they reached a small clearing, the memories began to swirl around them, vivid and haunting. The laughter of friends long gone, the echoes of promises whispered in the dark. Vincent felt a knot tighten in his chest as the gravity of their shared history pressed down upon him. "Vincent, look!" Veronica pointed to the ground where wildflowers had begun to bloom, defiant against the darkness. "Even in the shadows, life finds a way." He knelt down, fingertips brushing the delicate petals, a symbol of resilience against the weight of their past. "Maybe we can too," he mused, a flicker of hope igniting within him. "Maybe we can cultivate something beautiful from the ruins." Veronica knelt beside him, their shoulders brushing. "We have to try," she urged, her voice a soothing balm to his frayed nerves. "Let's dig deep into the soil of our memories, into the pain we've buried. Only then can we truly heal." With a deep breath, Vincent nodded, the resolve settling in his bones. "Together," he affirmed, squeezing her hand tightly. "Let's face the monsters behind our eyes." As they began their metaphorical excavation of buried truths, the air around them shimmered with the promise of redemption. They would confront the past, unearth the buried pain, and perhaps reclaim the light that had been lost. The journey ahead loomed daunting, yet together they would forge a path through the darkness, one step at a time. As they began to dig into the soil of their shared history, Vincent's hands sank into the earth, the cool dampness contrasting sharply with the warmth of the fading sunlight. Each clump of soil unearthed felt like a revelation, a moment suspended in time. Memories surfaced, half-formed and flickering like shadows cast by a dying fire. "Do you remember the summer we spent by the lake?" Veronica asked, her voice a gentle whisper, as if not to disturb the ghosts lurking in the trees. Vincent paused, the edges of his mouth twitching upward. "The one with the bonfire? We thought we were invincible." "Until the flames got out of control," she added, a hint of laughter in her tone, but it quickly faded. "I remember how scared I was." "Yeah." He chuckled softly, then sobered. "I remember how I didn't care. I just wanted to feel something, anything, other than the suffocating weight of everything." The sunlight dipped lower in the sky, casting elongated shadows that seemed to dance around them. They worked in silence for a moment, the rhythm of their hands against the earth a comforting distraction, but the deeper they dug, the more the hidden truths began to emerge, swirling like ghosts in the fading light. "Vincent," Veronica said, breaking the silence, her voice trembling slightly. "What if we find something we're not ready to face?" He hesitated, his heart pounding in his chest, a drum echoing the fear that had always lingered just beneath the surface. "Then we face it," he replied, his voice steadier than he felt. "We can't keep running from our past. It'll only haunt us more." A shiver ran through the air, and for a moment, the shadows seemed to thicken, as if the very trees were listening, holding their breath. Vincent's gaze drifted to the horizon where the sun was setting, its fiery hues bleeding into the sky, a reminder of both endings and beginnings. "Look," Veronica pointed again, her eyes wide with realization. "That old tree, the one we carved our initials into." Vincent's heart sank. "It's still here?" He turned to see the gnarled trunk, scarred and twisted, a testament to weathered years and unseen storms. It stood defiantly, just as they once had, despite the scars of their past. "Some things endure," she said softly, as if sensing his turmoil. "Maybe it's a sign, or a curse," he replied, the weight of guilt pressing down on him. "We carved our names into that tree when everything felt simple, but we didn't understand then, did we? We were naive." "Naivety can be beautiful," Veronica countered, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "It's the innocence we lost that hurts the most." Vincent nodded, the truth resonating deep within him. "What if we're still those kids, just lost in the chaos of adulthood? Then we find our way back," she said resolutely, her grip on his hand tightening. Together, with renewed determination, they turned back to their digging. Each scoop of earth was a cathartic release, memories flooding back, moments of joy intertwined with shadows of regret. They uncovered fragments of their youth, laughter mingling with tears, dreams buried under the weight of reality. Suddenly, Vincent's hand struck something solid. He paused, heart racing as he brushed away the dirt. A small weathered box emerged, its edges frayed and tarnished. "What is it?" Veronica asked, kneeling beside him, her breath hitching with anticipation. "Only one way to find out," he replied, a mixture of dread and curiosity swirling in his gut. As he opened the box, a rush of memories washed over them, echoes of whispered secrets, promises made in the dark, and the bittersweet taste of lost dreams. Inside lay tokens of their past, a faded photograph, a crumpled note, and a small trinket that sparkled with the light of forgotten moments. Vincent's hands trembled as he picked up the photograph, his heart racing. It was a snapshot of them, youthful and carefree, frozen in time. The joy in their faces felt like a distant dream, overshadowed by the weight of what had come after. "Vincent," Veronica's voice broke through his reverie, her eyes wide with understanding. "This is it. This is the past we need to confront." The shadows deepened around them, yet in that moment, Vincent felt a flicker of hope ignite within, the promise of redemption, a chance to reclaim the light that had long been shrouded in darkness. "Together," he whispered, a vow echoing in the twilight, "let's face what sleeps behind our eyes." And as the stars began to twinkle above, they stood hand in hand, ready to confront the monsters that had haunted them for far too long. The journey ahead was uncertain, but together they would uncover the truth, one buried memory at a time. Vincent felt the chill of the night wrap around them, a shroud whispering secrets of the past. The box rested heavily in his hands, a tangible link to a time long buried. "What if we're not ready?" he murmured, his voice barely rising above the rustle of leaves. Veronica squeezed his hand, grounding him. "We don't have a choice. The past is here, Vincent. It's always been here." He nodded, the weight of her words pressing against his chest. They stepped back from the box, the air thick with unspoken fears. The photograph still clung to his fingers, a lifeline to a version of himself he had long abandoned. "Do you remember this day?" he asked, his voice laced with nostalgia. Veronica leaned in closer, her breath warm against his ear. "Of course, we were invincible then." Her eyes glimmered with a mix of sorrow and resilience. "But that wasn't the whole story, was it?" The darkness deepened, shadows gathering like storm, clouds on the horizon. Vincent's heart raced as he recalled fragments of laughter, intertwined with the haunting echoes of their shared regrets. "I thought if I buried it deep enough it would fade away," he confessed, his voice cracking under the weight of his admission. "But it never did. It festered, like a wound that won't heal," Veronica replied softly, her gaze unwavering. We need to clean it out, Vincent. Face the infection before it consumes us. Her words struck a chord, resonating within the caverns of his heart. The idea of confronting the demons that lurked behind his eyes filled him with trepidation, yet a flicker of determination ignited within him. Then let's start, he said, the resolve in his voice surprising even himself. He placed the photograph back in the box, his fingers lingering over its surface like a prayer. Where do we begin? Veronica asked, her voice steady, a lifeline in the tempest of his uncertainty. Maybe with the note, he suggested, pulling out the crumpled piece of paper. The ink was faded, but the words danced vividly in his mind. They had written it together, a promise to never forget the love that had once bound them. It was a pact, a reminder of who we were before everything fell apart. Read it, she urged, her eyes locked on his, urging him to dive into the depths of their shared history. With a deep breath, he unfolded the note, the paper crackling in the silence that enveloped them. To the memories we cherish, he read aloud, and to the shadows that threaten to take them away. His voice trembled as he continued, may we always find our way back to the light. Tears glistened in Veronica's eyes. We wrote that when we were dreaming of a future. We were so naive. Naive, yes, but hopeful, Vincent countered, his heart swelling with a bittersweet nostalgia. Hope is what we need now, Veronica. It's what will guide us through. The wind picked up, swirling around them like the ghosts of their past. Then let's not just remember, she said, determination hardening her voice. Let's reclaim it. Vincent's gaze drifted to the small trinket nestled in the box. It sparkled like a star fallen from the night sky, its brilliance a stark contrast to the darkness that surrounded them. This, he breathed, lifting it gingerly, this was a symbol of our dreams. Then let it be a symbol of our fight, Veronica replied, her eyes fierce. Let it remind us of who we can be. Together they stepped away from the box, the weight of their shared history heavy, yet liberating. The night stretched before them, filled with uncertainty, but also the promise of discovery. Hand in hand, they faced the horizon where shadows danced and stars shone bright, ready to uncover the truths buried behind their eyes, one memory at a time. As they walked forward, the darkness whispered around them, but Vincent felt a new light burgeoning within, a spark ignited by the courage to confront their past. They were not just haunted by what had been, they were poised to reclaim what could still be. Vincent felt the pulse of the night in his veins as they ventured into the unknown, the air thick with unspoken fears and flickering hopes. Each step felt like a heartbeat, reverberating through the stillness around them. The remnants of their past clung to them, yet with every stride, they shed layers of hesitation, moving from the shadows toward the uncertain glow of the future. Do you remember the old oak tree? Veronica asked, breaking the silence. Her voice was soft, yet it carried the weight of nostalgia. The one by the river? Vincent's mind raced back to sun-drenched afternoons spent beneath its sprawling branches, the laughter shared, the dreams whispered into the rustling leaves. Of course, he replied, a faint smile breaking through the gravity of the moment. We carved our names into it, didn't we? Like promises etched into time, she said, her eyes glimmering with the light of those memories. I wonder if it's still standing. Life has a way of enduring, he mused, glancing at her, a flicker of hope igniting between them, just like us. As they walked, the world around them transformed, shadows morphing into shapes that danced at the edges of their vision. The trees loomed like silent sentinels, their branches outstretched as if to embrace the pair, yet the darkness lingered, thick and palpable. Vincent's thoughts flickered back to the box, the trinket, a remnant of their innocence. What if we're not the same people we were? He questioned, the vulnerability in his voice stark against the night's stillness. What if the past has changed us too much? Veronica paused, her grip tightening around his hand. We've been shaped, yes, but we've also grown. The past doesn't have to define us. We can choose who we are now. Her conviction resonated within him, a soothing balm against the jagged edges of his doubts. But what if the shadows catch up to us? Then we face them together, she replied, her voice unwavering. We don't have to run anymore. With those words, they pressed on, the ground beneath them shifting from gravel to soft earth, the path winding toward a clearing illuminated by the silvery glow of the moon. It felt like stepping into a dream, a realm where possibilities lay open like the sky above them. Look, Veronica whispered, tilting her head toward the heavens. It's beautiful. Vincent followed her gaze, and for a moment the weight of their past faded into insignificance. The stars twinkled like lost souls finding their way home, illuminating the darkness with a promise of light. It's like they're watching over us, he said, awe-weaving through his tone. Or guiding us, she suggested, her eyes reflecting the constellations. Maybe they're reminding us that we are never truly alone. As they stood together under the vast expanse, Vincent felt a flicker of understanding. The darkness darkness was ever present, but so was the light. It was a delicate balance, a dance between their fears and the courage they had gathered. "Let's make a pact," he proposed, his voice steady. "No more running, no more hiding." Veronica turned toward him, her expression fierce and unwavering. "Agreed. We will confront whatever lies ahead, together." With that, they felt the weight of their commitment settle around them like a cloak. The past would not be easily vanquished, but together they could navigate the complexities of their shared history, unraveling the threads that bound them to their former selves. As they began to walk again, the air shifted, carrying the scent of earth and newfound promise. The path ahead was uncertain, but with each step they fortified their resolve. The night whispered secrets, but Vincent no longer felt afraid. Instead, he felt alive, ready to uncover the truths that lay behind their eyes and to reclaim not just the memories, but the power to shape their own destinies. Hand in hand, they ventured forth into the embrace of the night, where shadows lingered, but light awaited just beyond the horizon.